Well, Roy Keane certainly stirred things up in the Irish camp with some of his criticism of the manager, of the players, and not least of supporters who have come here for what Roy describes as a sing-song. Some agree, some disagree. There's a split on that. Somebody that knows him as well as and better than most, former Irish international, now legendary television broadcaster, Eamon Dunphy joins us on the telephone. Eamon was responsible for writing his book originally. I think, Eamon, the two of you don't necessarily get on so well as you once did, do you?
Well, we never really were friends. He just asked me if I'd write the book. I wrote the book. And then on the Saipan incident, when he came home, I took his side in the argument, which was quite feverish here. But we were never friends. I had to go back to my day job of being a journalist, and I think at Sunderland and elsewhere when he was in management, I would have been just treating him like any other manager, critical sometimes and praised sometimes. And I basically would say, Richard, I think he's become a pain in the arse over the last few years, because he's talking about everyone else's team, even when he was in management, talking about Manchester United, talking about the Irish team, poking his nose in other people's business. It's slightly different now. He's out of the game and he's working as an analyst, so he's entitled to say whatever he wants.
He's entitled to an opinion, Eamon,
Absolutely.
Of course. We don't dispute that. But knowing him as well as you do, why? What goes on inside Roy's head that leads him in this path?
It's hard to say, Richard. I think he's a smart guy. He was a great player. He was a pleasure to work with on the book. He's a very nice family, lovely children, his wife, they're delightful people. I would say I've come to the conclusion that it's attention seeking. Now, I don't know. He in the latest incident, he's been very supportive of Trapattoni all along the way. He's said the manager's doing a great job. The players we have are no good. The manager's done something of a miracle to get them to the championships. Now, when these championships have really exposed Trapattoni and the limitations of his system, his judgment of players as well, because he's left a lot of very good players like Seamus Coleman, Wes Houlihan, McLean, McLean from Sunderland. He's left them out of the side, and in some cases out of the squad. So Trapattoni is under the microscope now, and because Keane has nowhere to go on that, he can't now change his mind, or must feel he can't. So who's he lash out at? The supporters and the players, and I think that's really unfair. The players have been magnificent. Richard Dunn, Bobby Keane, Damien Duff, Shay Given, John O'Shea. You know, they haven't had a great championship, but they've been fantastic players for Ireland over the years. And the supporters, I think, and most people think, have been a credit to the country, because, you know, they're singing in adversity and they're not, you know, causing trouble or doing many other things that they might be doing. I've no idea what really motivates him, Richard. I think very few people know. I like a rebel myself. I wouldn't be against him for rebelling. But sometimes, you know, it doesn't really all add up.
Does he have a self-destruct button somewhere, Eamon, that occasionally he can't resist pushing?
Well, there's a lot of history there, Richard. Back when he was a player and when he was a young guy, he had a lot of history. But I think he was a great captain of Manchester United. He stopped drinking and he reformed himself. And I must say I had huge admiration for him as a footballer and as a person. But in the last few years, sometimes, I mean, when he said the thing about the prawn sandwiches at Old Trafford, there was more than a grain of truth in that, about the corporate hospitality thing. He's a smart guy, you know, and but gradually over the years, my understanding is that the clubs he's been at, Sunderland and Ipswich, he hasn't been very player-friendly. And he's been, you know, he has hurt a lot of players.
Is that, well, let me put another theory to you. Is that because he is one of those that truly was a great and has trouble working with others who don't perhaps necessarily come up to his standards? Yeah,
I've seen that in other great players who became managers, that they just don't understand how ordinary players, journeymen, how they think about the game, how they see the game, and they find it hard to adjust. And I think there is an element of that. There's also, after the Saipan, I mean, for half of the Irish people, he was a hero. For all of Manchester United fans, I mean, Roy Keane would be a massive hero, you know?
Yeah, of course.
I think there's an element that it might have all gone to his head. and that when he pontificates now, it's like a statement from the Pope, and we should all, he's been poking his nose in other people's business, other managers' business, for a very long time now. Those press conferences at Sunderland were legendary for copy. It's great if you're a journalist,
yes,
but like massive copy, and I think that's kind of dangerous while you're still in the game anyway.
Eamon, does the incident in Saipan leave him with fragile ground to stand upon when he's criticising others?
I wouldn't. I'd say no. I don't think so, Richard. I think in the end, he claims he walked recently. Now he didn't. McCarthy kicked him out in the end. I know that, but he's changed his tune on that. I would say, he's entitled to criticise players. He's certainly someone with a track record in the game, and he is entitled to. But he has a personal thing about the likes of Shay Given and Richard Dunn and Robbie Keane. They were in Saipan, and I would say he's been putting the boot into them whenever he got the opportunity. He had to go with Shay for turning up for every international match and getting a load of cheap caps. Now that's nothing to do with football. That's to do with
that's to do with wanting to represent your country, isn't it?
He's got a grievance
to do
with Shay.
Exactly that.
Sorry, Andy?
I'm just saying that's to do with turning up for your country and wanting to play for your country.
Exactly.
And not saying, it's only a friendly, I'm not going, as so many do.
That's right. And the way Roy turned that on his head, Andy, is he said, they're turning up to get cheap caps, so they want 120 caps. And that's a kind of bitter way of... It's a twist on it. They've been good players, Andy, for Ireland.
Of course they have.
A lot of these lads.
Eamon, could I ask you, might Roy be being a little controversial at the moment because he might be just putting himself in the shop window, trying to impress maybe one or two chairmen looking for a job who might think, I like this guy?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think he said he wants to get back in the game, but I think people who know what went on at Ipswich and in the end at Sunderland, he won't be getting any great references from players who played under him. He definitely wants to get back in the game. He once famously said that being a TV analyst would be like going to the dentist and sitting in the dentist chair.
He did to Richard Keys, I think you'll find.
Yeah, and I mean now he's doing it, I must say, from having great admiration for him, both as a person and as a player, I consider him now to be just blather. Sorry.
Well,
a lot of people consider me just to be blather.
No, it wasn't so much what he said, Eamon. That's why I was interested in talking to you about it. It's why, and I think you've given us some reasons, perhaps, as to why. Do you have any sympathy with what he said? Is he right or not?
No, he's not right about the players. And he was wrong. He made a bad call when he backed the manager so strongly. So he's nowhere to turn to. He can't turn on Trapattoni now. He's kind of, he's turning on the players and the fans. And there's a grain of truth in the thing about, us being happy to settle for a sing-song and go out of the tournament early. But if you were to do forensic analysis, such as you and Andy did and we try to do, I mean, the real issue here is the system, which is very rigid and conservative, and the players who didn't get the call-up. I mean, Seamus Coleman would be one. James McLean, who's had a very good season for Sunderland, didn't even put him on, hasn't picked him for tonight. Young James McCarthy at Wigan, he's messed McCarthy around for about 18 months now. He had a personal reason for not coming, but I think he would have gone to the championships if he felt he would have got a game. There's other players. Foley was treated really badly, the young fella from Wolverhampton, just before the tournament started. Wes Hoolahan at Norwich, who's a very good footballer, a very experienced footballer, has had 2 good seasons at Norwich. Guys like that can't get a look in, and we have kind of quite ordinary players, like Paul Green is an unattached player who was brought on against Spain in midfield because there was nothing on the bench. Now that's not really good enough.
No. Listen, Eamon, as far as the fans go, I understand what you're saying, and maybe there is an element of truth in it, but my experience of having mixed with them these past few days is that these guys are top class. They've put money that they don't have into a trip here to support their team, and they can sing all day long and all night, as far as I'm concerned.
But Eamon, I think I look at the Irish team and I see very much a mirror image of Scotland when we used to go to big tournaments. We know with the greatest will in the world we're not going to win it, and the fans know they're not going to win it. So I think they do come here and they actually enjoy the tournament for as long as they're going to be in the tournament, and I don't think that's to be criticised.
No,
I think that's to be endorsed.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. But a lot of people in the game, Andy, don't respect fans, and they don't really appreciate that it's the fans who fund the whole operation, and they go for enjoyment and experience to support their team. I think that it's brilliant the way they behave themselves.
Yeah.
We've seen English fans go mad when the team's not playing well. We've seen a lot of trouble. Irish fans make it the whole thing a party for the hosts and for everyone else, and I think they're wonderful. So I think Roy was off the mark there, And the other thing about that is everything Roy has comes from fans' pockets and every other person in this business, and to lash out at the fans, I think was really, not on.
Eamon, it's been a pleasure. Many thanks for... Thanks, Eamon.
Bye-bye.
Very much.
Thanks,
Eamon Dunphy, giving us perhaps an insight into what goes on in somebody's mind. On this occasion, Roy Keane's.